I'm Wayne Chapin, president of Xerillion, and I've got Chris Bessler, a senior vice president at Cumberland Securities. And today we're talking about their project moving into the Microsoft cloud. So I'll go ahead and start. Chris, I know you guys have a very diverse business, and I've engaged with you out of Cumberland Securities, but can you explain the makeup and the businesses that your company is involved with?
Certainly. The business is Cumberland Securities is the one that I'm primarily work with. From a business standpoint, we're a financial services company. We provide financial advice to municipalities in the issuance of tax-exempt financing. We're subject to regulation by the Securities and Exchange Commission and also the Municipal Securities Rulemaking Board, the MSRB. My managing partner also has a controlling interest in a number of other companies, which we also run under the same total umbrella corporation. And his other companies are quite diverse. He's got mostly in the development. And so he's got one major development that he started a few years back. I believe it's about 800 acres. It's got a golf course. It's got luxury homes, a high-end restaurant. It's got some retail on it. He's looking to continue to expand upon all of those features and amenities in this lifestyle resort. There's also a marina as well that's operated out of here. The other businesses that they've got are rental cabin businesses in the mountains. We live near the Smoky Mountain National Park, and so they rent some cabins out of there as well, and houses. And then also there's new developments that are coming online as well, and we're gearing up to expand towards that. So where we are right now, we have about 50 to 60 what I would consider information workers that have computers and utilize service. There's hundreds of employees. Not all are information workers, though. As recently as 2012, there was just 7 of us. And
Gotcha.
So in a short amount of time, we've grown and had to scale rapidly.
Yeah, wow. And what is your role there?
Yeah, so initially with Cumberland Securities, I help with business, compliance, accounting, kind of small company, jack of all trades, master of none, if you will. And so I helped get our IT set up when it was just a small company. I used, just past experience back in college 20 years ago and, catching up on networking and setting up a server. And as we continued to expand and kept adding one more employee and one more employee, I was having to deal with more stuff, adding somebody to a local domain, try to deal with workers who weren't on site. They were at a different location on the development, or they were working remotely, and then having to deal with, remote desktop features and increased security issues and viruses or malware infecting a file server. And so, it's not my main job being in IT, but it's a small portion of it, but it was beginning to take up more and more of my time, which I needed to devote more to business development.
Gotcha. And so where were you at IT-wise? About how much time was it taking in terms like 4 hours, 8 hours a week?
Well, generally speaking, before we teamed up with Xerillion, I was probably, I can't do this on a 40-hour work week because I don't know what that is from then. But, probably in a 70-hour work week, I was probably putting 15 or 20 hours a week that I was putting into IT.
All right. So you spoke a little bit about the business challenges that you were having. I was looking back over the notes on working on your system. You had some physical servers, some virtual servers. You had a VPN to connect into the system. You also had a phone system.
Yeah. So we've gone through a number of iterations over the years. In 2012, it was in summer of 2012 when we started up, and it was just 7 of us with Cumberland Securities. We moved into a building. It had the old traditional on-prem PBX system. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. So that was there. Anytime you had to reprogram it, you had to call somebody from, a local phone company out to reprogram it at about $1,000 a pop is generally what it worked out to be. So every employee you added, you had to have them come out and incur all kinds of costs for that. At the same time, we also had, we started off with Google Business for our email, because I did not want to run an on-premises Exchange server in addition to the file server as well. Yeah. So that was our initial setup. We eventually moved away from that local on-prem PBX and went with ShoreTel. ShoreTel provides a cloud PBX system. And so we went with that, and that could go on your mobile phone for additional monthly cost as well. I think I was the only one that actually had that, and that was a separate cost, subscription based per user.
Gotcha. Okay. So then when you're like, okay, we got to make a change, did you know that you wanted to be 100% in the cloud, or were you playing around with the idea like just refreshing the servers, maybe getting that done a little differently?
Yeah. So we had we had an incident where, without getting into all the details, we had our on-premises server get fried. I incurred quite a bit of cost replacing that server and trying to rebuild the data, and we were out for about a week's time, and this all happened kind of over the Christmas break. And so instead of spending time with my family, I was dealing with IT stuff that I didn't want to deal with. And so at that point, I thought maybe I can start looking at getting stuff in the cloud, at least for a backup. We had local backups and that was fine. And we researched different options, and I just was not comfortable with cloud options at that time. And so what I did get comfortable with was the Office 365 product. And so we went from the desktop licenses for Office, Microsoft Office, and got rid of that and went to the Office 365 license and moved away from Google Business Email to Microsoft Email. And so we had that set up, and we used that in conjunction with our ShoreTel. A couple of years later, in 2017, summer of 2017, I decided to look at things again because we were expanding quite rapidly by 2017. At this point, we had over 35 information workers. And at that point, I was getting stretched just too thin in how much I was having to do and to support and to set people up and deal with remote desktop and VPN and trying to walk people through that. And I thought, surely there's a way, somebody's gotten better on having information that we can just access in the cloud. And it's at that point that I did more research. I went back to Google. I looked at Microsoft a little bit and Amazon as well. And at the time, I was really just looking for file server. I just wanted a file server for stuff in the cloud and not really even looking at all the other services, even though we were starting to deal with more security issues as well. And then over a period of just a few weeks, I started researching more and more into it and found out that with what Microsoft offers, and first off, philosophically, I have issues with Google and the way that they utilize information. So they kind of quickly got by the wayside. Microsoft, while I was just looking at them initially, started increasing quite rapidly when I looked at the feature of services through Office 365 and some of the other things. And then when I found out about the Microsoft 365 offering that was getting ready to roll out. And so spoke with Amazon, spoke with Microsoft, was comparing services. And really, I just believed that the product that Microsoft was putting forth, packaged together, especially when it included things that I wasn't actually concerned about that I really needed to be, such as the EMS and ATP, just all the advanced threat protection and security, things like that, that now I can go and I can see in our panel how many threats we've been protected from. I see that everything that Microsoft put forth to us at that time has really been beneficial and helpful. And so I looked at kind of what I would call the big three, Google, Amazon, and Microsoft. And it didn't take a whole lot to recognize that Microsoft put together a value package. It was a closed ecosystem. So I wasn't having to do stuff with Microsoft Office and Windows as well, and then deal with a Amazon file server and
different phone companies. And I'll speak a little bit. I'll speak a little bit about the solution too, because you have the top system Microsoft makes. You have Microsoft 365 Enterprise E5 with the phone system. And you guys are using Microsoft phone system through just the apps, right? Do you have some desk phones or everybody just using the app?
I've got one desk phone. It's back there, not plugged in.
Gotcha. Okay. So everybody's using the apps, which is the way I highly recommend to do it. So I would say about half the people that get set up with the Microsoft phone system, half of them still want to have a desk phone there, but it is nice just to work with that way. But you guys are using that, and the E5 package included the phone system. We just had to add on a calling plan for $12 a user per month.
But I can tell you as well what we were paying for ShoreTel. So you had to pay for the monthly subscription rate for ShoreTel. You had to pay for the phone, the desk phone that you lease from them as well, and then you had to pay for any additional features. So for instance, voicemail to text, $15 a month per user, right? Well, that's included in the Microsoft plan, okay? And so when I looked at all those features together, compared, okay, here's what the cost is for ShoreTel, and here's the cost for Microsoft 365 E5, plus $12 for the calling plan, just getting rid of the phone system and then adding all these other features, all of them, it was actually an incremental cost. It wasn't a huge cost. It was an incremental cost.
Wow.
Now, ShoreTel is one of the more expensive cloud providers out there, but it's one of the better ones. But at the same time, I don't notice any difference in quality with what we've been using in Skype and Teams.
And now in this case, with you guys having your different operations and different sites and stuff like that, if you want to put somebody here, put somebody there, it just doesn't matter. As long as they have their computer, as long as they have their mobile phone, they can load up the app and they're into the company phone system.
Well, and even better than that is that when we do calling groups, all I have to do is add somebody to a security group in the Office 365 admin portal. And that's a heck of a lot easier than what we did under ShoreTel.
Yeah. You were one of the early adopters of the F1 subscription. So you guys not only have Microsoft 365 Enterprise E5, but you have Microsoft 365 F1. And so, for the people watching this, F1 is for those people that they don't have a desk necessarily. They might have a kiosk computer, but they're going to be accessing a small mailbox that they have a small amount of storage, but they can integrate with the company securely. And then they'll be accessing that stuff, their email or files through a web browser or a mobile app. And you guys have a bunch of those subscriptions that you guys work with as well.
Yeah, so we have a golf course and a restaurant on the primary development. And so within there, we do have a number of workers that we have with an F1 subscription. And within that, they're able to use their phone email. Now, they're not going to sit at a computer desktop and get Outlook or Excel. But they have everything available to them on the phone, and they can do it there. And then they also have access to all of our data, which we have up on SharePoint, and we're in the process of transitioning things to Teams right now. And so they have access to all that information, and we control it. And so we have access to keep that information where it needs to be. So we're not sending out pricing information or other information that might leak out there to possibly competitors or just information that doesn't need to get out in the wild. Absolutely. There as well. And then with Staff Hub also, I think is moving to Teams. That's probably something we might start looking at and maybe increase subscriptions as well to start encompassing even more employees.
And the thing between Microsoft 365 Enterprise E5 versus F1, who people just need access to a little, company email, some files, but no, they don't need a huge mailbox. They're not going to be working on a desk all day long. It's also 1/5 the price. So there's a big savings in money there as well. And that was the Microsoft 365 emails, files, phones, security. And we did all the security stuff. You have Office 365 Advanced Threat Protection. You have Windows Defender Advanced Threat Protection. You have cloud app security all set up. We configured all those things. We configured retention policies, so all the data, the emails and files are safe, whether somebody accidentally or intentionally deleted or purged files or emails, that's all protected. And then we also had these Windows applications on your network that were, they work good for you guys. They're not web-based applications, but those need to be moved over to the cloud too. You were hosting those on site. Those got moved up as well. And so what were those business applications for you guys?
Yeah, so there's two business applications. First, the one that most people know is Quickbooks, and so it's Quickbooks, the desktop version. And there's various reasons, but the Quickbooks program that's online is not the same as the Quickbooks desktop. And for various reasons, we need the Quickbooks desktop. And so we had to figure out a way to be able to bridge the fact that we're no longer going to have a file server on premises anywhere. There's nothing, there's no file to share from a computer there that we know that's always going to be on like our old file server was, because we've moved everything into the cloud. So that was one application. And the other one, it's called Jonas, and it's our resort management software. So it deals with all the homeowners. It has point of sale system on it, and it's kind of a one-stop shop for managing a resort development like we have. And that also needed to run off of a server. And so for that, Xerillion, you guys just recommended that we move all of this to an Azure server. We pay for what we need, connect it via VPN. We've got a fairly easy process to do that. People get concerned about, I got people that don't know computers. Are they going to be able to do this? We've got people that don't know computers at all. You're dealing with some maintenance people or restaurant servers that are able to connect to the VPN, bring up remote desktop, and run the software just fine with a very quick 5 to 7 minutes of training. That's about it from the Azure standpoint.
Well, and so, and then I'll talk a little bit about that here. So we built an Azure virtual network, and then we extended your local network securely up to the Azure virtual network through a VPN, just like you're talking about. And we're using an Azure VPN gateway with a Cisco Meraki firewall that they had on site. So those are connected up. And then in your case, Microsoft had come out with Azure Active Directory domain services. So we used to have to build a small domain controller. Anyway, we didn't have to deal with any of that. We were able to take their Azure Active Directory accounts and extend that. And so it's just a service. We didn't have to build another server as a domain controller. And then we were able to set up Windows Server, remote desktop services, and basically virtualize those applications and then serving them up to those users. And I'm glad to hear that it's easy for those users. So there's an interesting story how you found us. Can you talk a little bit about how you found us?
Yeah, so I was speaking with Microsoft directly, actually, for a bit, trying to figure out if things would work. And from there, I was concerned about how we would do QuickBooks and Jonas, the two Windows applications where we need to actually have a server. And quickly found out from QuickBooks directly that QuickBooks Online would not work for us, that we would need to keep using that. And so what I did not want to do is go mostly to the cloud and leave our file server there just for these purposes and then still have to maintain all of that. I'm trying to get my hands out of having to deal with that kind of dirty work, if you will. Yeah. And so I think I just did some Google searches and I came across Xerillion's website, and I was either right off the homepage or it was on the homepage talking about the scenario. And you basically, it's almost like you interviewed me before you did your homepage, or you did that up there and you talked about QuickBooks Desktop and do you need to access it, and, moving your file server and moving that up to, SharePoint, which you had at the time and up there. And so I read that, so I put down your information. I called you. I called a couple of other firms as well, and just did some due diligence and looked on Microsoft's site as well to see your partner status with them. And that's ultimately how I came to team up with Xerillion.
I think the interesting thing to note here in this video is that what I really appreciate about what Microsoft did, the person you were talking to, Jake Weipels, he felt what you were talking about was maybe you needed a partner. That's rather than going direct, and which says a lot about him and what their group over there. He might have been thinking, well, that I might not get a sale now. I don't know, but he said, look, I think you should work with a partner. And then he actually contacted me saying he talked to you.
Yeah.
He talked to you and said, look, I think you should really talk to him. I told him you'd give him a call. And I thought that was really cool. And then when I had talked to you, like, yeah, I was talking to them and I did a search, a couple weeks before and I saw you. So I thought that was cool how Microsoft and Xerillion came together to work with a great company here. So just to wrap this up, how has moving to Microsoft Cloud, Microsoft 365, Azure, and working with Xerillion to help manage that on our managed service platform, how has that helped the business?
Well, it's hard to say from like a dollar specific ROI or anything like that, just because we've been in such a growth phase anyways from all the development side, the real estate development. I can tell you my time is extremely valuable from my personal standpoint and from a monetary standpoint. So the less time I have to spend dealing with IT stuff, the better that is for our company. The other thing there is with the ease of which it is to onboard new employees, that to me has great value. The data protection, the other thing that it's hard to place a value on something that hasn't happened, but you can place a value on it when it does happen, and that's malware, virus, and ransomware. And like I said before, going through the portal and seeing how many attacks there are and specific users that tend to get attacked more than others, and finding out who's downloading files or who's deleting files. We've had a number of instances where people have accidentally deleted lots of files, and part of that is because we allow more access to some of the files. But at the same time, it's nice getting an immediate notification that this is done. We can check and see if they meant to do that. And if not, we restore it. It's a push of a button, basically. It takes just a couple minutes to deal with that versus finding out a week or two later when somebody says, yeah, this file's not here. So there's real value to that. But how do I place that monetary value? It's very difficult. So it's really in a lot of things like that. And as I said, the other thing was we already had the ShoreTel Cloud PBX system, which was running, not too far away from what the E5 plus the calling plan is. And so with that, we have gotten all these other features, Office, Windows, security, and everything that comes with it for just a few dollars more per month per user.
Phone system,
right? At least, just from the license standpoint. And so that's got great value as well, because otherwise we would have to go get Office 365 anyways on top of it. So there is real dollar value, and we've not quantified that, but to me, it's no question it's worth it. I talk to other people all the time. Microsoft 365 is the way to go. And so I'm on the board of a school right now and trying to talk to them about moving over to a full Microsoft 365 educational plan as well.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. It was a great, hearing your feedback on this and going over the project again, because it was a big one. But now you guys got the best system that Microsoft makes. So, Chris, thanks a lot. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. My pleasure, Wayne.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Bye-bye.